After walking this side of the spreader, starting at the nose of the tractor, we would walk this whole side of the spreader doing these safety checks that we're showing you. Go around the back of the bar, and then we go around the other side of the tanker and do the same procedure all the way back up to the front. Start at the nose, hydraulic cooler, so you're looking for any leaks up front. Engine oil, hold the stick, check it. It's on full. Check alternator and fan belts for tension. We come around, you check all the lugs on your duals. These do come loose, so you're looking for loose paint, cracked bolts, bolts missing. Just by checking all the tires, you can tell if there's low inflation or no inflation at all. And after doing this a while, you learn that you can actually see a flat tire. Every tractor has an oil reservoir. This is our hydraulic reservoir. This has to be checked every day at startup. There's a dipstick just like on the engine crankcase for motor oil. This is the oil that runs most spreaders, the steering apparatus on them. Some spreaders, the impellers. That oil appeared to be fine. There is about a dozen hoses in the internal side of a big frame tractor like this. There's a number of points to grease on most tractors in this area. That stuff has to be greased at least once a day. So usually a grease gun goes along with your safety check. You do this as you walk through the unit. We've come to the back of the tractor here. There's numerous ports of safety checks to do. Once again, you're looking at hoses back here for worn, scuffed hoses. You're checking all of these hoses, looking at them, looking for any leaks, wet areas. You're also looking at your plug-ins for your electric turn signals and lights, hazards, making sure that that is all plugged in. And once again, before this spreader goes on the road, we actually go through a safety startup as far as running your signals and making sure everything works on the rear of the spreader and the top of the tractor. After we've checked hydraulics in the center of the tractor, we come back and we've checked our rear hydraulic hoses that operate the spreader. From there we go straight down to probably the business part of towing this spreader. Most accidents happen for two reasons. One is fatigue and the other is hitch pin breakage. It's something that we change every year religiously. So when we're doing our walkthrough, we're making sure that these clips are on them pins. You'll notice up here there's a rubber band. This green thing here actually steers the spreader. So when the tractor turns, this thing is moving. We rubber belt this so corn stalks or something like that can't lift this up and get it away from the drawbar, so it's always rubber belted. Back here is another huge pull pin. We check that for wear once a year, and we also make sure we double nut this so it's double nutted underneath so it can't jump out. You also check the full length of the drawbar. They break too. So this line of pull here, there's huge amounts of torsion on that, and that is checked many times during the course of a day of operation. After checking drawbar pins, this hydraulic chamber is opened up, and you check for any loose bolts in here. That usually gets a little spray of liquid grease on it. Safety around high spinning parts like this is 1,000 RPM. So nothing can get in there. So that's why there's a steel lid that stays over the top of it. Probably two reasons that we go up on top of a tanker. There's two things to check up there. You check your harness equipment for your flow meter to make sure that everything is intact. You check your float ball up there. Sometimes they stick, so by sitting overnight. So usually during the start of the morning, that float is checked also up there. After crawling the top of the spreader and looking at floats and that hydraulic stuff up there and safety pins for the bar, usually come down to the front of the spreader, and you just grab inside like this and feel these big nuts and bolts to make sure that there is nuts on them and that the bolt isn't broken in there. So you're looking for cracked paint and broken bolts, nuts that are off. You're looking at also your brakes while you're under here. All of these spreaders have a brake on each wheel. They're capable of stopping this loaded spreader in about 30 feet. So all of that stuff has to look at every day at startup, and a lot of times during the course of the day we look at it too. So after checking our link bolts underneath, a good visual of all the lugs on each tire, the lug nut bolts. There again, you're also looking for crack paint, for a fracture on the rim. You're also kicking tires, which you generally don't have a lot of trouble with. They're 30 pounds of pressure, but you're checking each one of those lug bolts. You know, to make sure that that thing is intact and held like it's supposed to be held. After we've kicked tires and checked for loose bolts, lug nut bolts, usually come back to the rear of the spreader. You're looking for broken bolts in the toolbar, and kind of a habit that commercial manure haulers have, they're checking these hoses. And what you're doing when you're doing that, you're looking for any plug debris that's in the inject tube. Normally we'll fill this hose and make it heavy. So when a person pulls on these hoses, you can tell that there's not fertilizer in them. And that even though your electronics tells you you're pumping fertilizer back here, this gives you a real sense that each row is getting fertilizer like it's supposed to. And it's just a double backup safety procedure. After we're done checking the hoses for no obstructions, we come in here and we look at these lift cylinders that lift the actual applicator bar. Make sure that all of these quick clips are in here. Stuff breaks every day, so that stuff is always checked. Same with the bolts that actually pull the plow. There's 6 on this particular plow bar. That all of them bolts are in, and they're not broken. That they're tight. And when we were on top of the tank, them safety pins were also checked on the top. Next, after we've checked them plow pull bolts, we're coming up here to the actual toolbar pins. We're checking to make sure that we have safety pins on both sides of that pull pin. These safety checks that we're showing you, just absolutely how it's done.